the Spire Sports Show. I'm your host, Tyler, along with my co host, Kyle. Giggs is doing basketball breakdown for the finals. So he's going to have that out to all you basketball fans out there. And yeah, because we want to diversify ourselves, right? So without further ado, though, we got a lot of stuff that we want to get through here quickly for you guys. So let's get into the player news. So the first thing that we should probably talk about, right, is the the biggest news, the Tennessee and Pittsburgh game. Now, it looks like it's probably going to be moved to Monday night or Tuesday night. So figure out, we'll see what happens. But I think 5 o'clock is what the time would be on Monday, and I think maybe 6 o'clock on Tuesday night. I'm not entirely sure. Remember, they're also kind of competing with the bait on Tuesday night, so they'll probably keep that in mind. So keep that. Continue looking into that. I think that they definitely play this week. I guess it depends on the test, but we'll see. Minnesota and Houston. That game was also going to be possibly postponed, but it looks right now Minnesota had no test,
The
so they're
next
going to play.
debate's not till the 15th, so they won't have to worry about it.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Dang it! I want to see it. It was so
Yeah, I know. I,
entertaining.
I looked it up like an hour ago, and I was pretty disappointed. Not longer than that.
Okay, well, sorry I said that. Misinformed. Anyways, so you also had the Minnesota game in Houston, right? It looks like it's going to be going as scheduled on Sunday. They're going to be returned to facilities on Thursday if you're listening to this on Thursday. Um, so looks like they're trending in the right direction. We'll see about the Tennessee and Pittsburgh game. Next thing I want to talk about is Jamison Crowder. He should play tomorrow night. I've seen reports, along with Philip Lindsay. Both of them should play. So that's good news for the Jets. And obviously, Sam Darnold, right, needs to have some weapons out there. Can't be thrown to the. I don't even know who he throws to anymore. It's so bad. So I feel bad for the guy. Honestly, I do. It's pretty ugly. And then you have obviously Rippon uh, as their starting quarterback. I think his first name Brian Rippon, right? So pretty ugly.
It, Brett.
Brett. I knew it started with a B. So
Brett,
Brett Rippon,
Brian,
Brian.
Brevin.
So so
Doesn't matter.
Thursday night game looks really entertaining right now.
Jets
Uh,
by 20.
Chris Carson limited, which is good because I think there's a good chance he probably plays in this game. If he doesn't, and you got Carlos Hyde, I think Homer's going to play. It's going to kind of probably be split here, so hopefully Carson plays. Miles Sanders, Alshon Jeffrey, limited. Deshaun Jackson, is he still on your roster? If so, drop him. Did not practice. Cam Akers did not practice, but it really looks like Daryl Henderson show going forward. Jared Cook did not practice. Michael Thomas did practice, and they said that week 4 was when he probably would return. So definitely looking good here. George Kittle full go. Jimmy G practice. Mostert did not practice. So Jeff Wilson might get another upgrade this week, along with I'm pretty sure Jerick McKinnon would practice as well, and Debo practice. Now that doesn't mean he's going to come back this week, and even if he did, it's probably going to be a limited snap count. So something to just keep in mind and going forward. Make sure you check on the injury report. Mike Williams, do you guys still have him on your team? Because if so, drop him. Not worth anything. Zach Moss practice, which dang kind of sucks for Singletary's value. It's probably going to go back to timeshare. Bummer because Singletary he should be leading this backfield, man. I mean Zach Moss good, but come on, Singletary's good. John Brown did not practice. We'll talk about somebody who you should probably pick up here in a little bit. Chris Godwin out to 2 weeks, probably because they play in a Thursday night game. Scotty Miller did not practice. Something to monitor throughout the week because that's big news. If I don't know why he didn't practice, but look into it. We'll keep you updated. James White back at practice. Damian Harris off IR. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Um, Probably some really surprising news. Hunt didn't practice. Kareem Hunt. And Cleveland promoted Hillard off of their practice squad. So that doesn't look good for Hunt probably playing this week. And if he doesn't play, right? Listen, uh, Nick Chubb, yeah, start him in everything. DFS, he's going to be such a good play. And then you have Ruggs, looks like a long shot to play. Brian Edwards not playing. Hunter Renfro, question mark. Yeah, looks good. And DJ Shark was limited. So things to just continue to monitor throughout the week. Transaction trends, our next topic here. This is about a section that it's after the waiver, right? After the waiver, you have people that draw people. Now, this waiver period wasn't that good. You didn't really have that many big names getting hurt, so it really wasn't that exciting. So keep that in mind here. So we're going to talk about players that have dropped that shouldn't be dropped. And honestly, I don't really have anything. Really, there weren't that many players that were dropped that shouldn't have been dropped this week. Most of them, they probably should have been dropped. One I do want to talk about because I feel like I have to talk about one, right? And it's not even it's the Chargers defense. And there's no way you're playing them this week, right? I just needed to mention somebody. They play Tampa Bay, which Tampa Bay is really, I mean, they're good, but we'll see how good they really are here. And then they play New Orleans next week, which you're not playing against New Orleans. But then they have the Jets, Miami, and Jacksonville. So three pretty good games, and the Jets defense or the Chargers defense really isn't bad. So um, we'll talk about our ads. So these are guys who were added that, in my opinion, are probably a little bit more added than they should be. So you have one of the top ads this week, not one of the top ads, near the top though, 60,000 ads this week, Randall Cobb. Don't chase points, okay? Worst thing that you can do in all of fantasy sports, not just fantasy football, all fantasy sports, is chase points. Do not chase points, okay? He had 4 catches on 4 targets for 95 yards and a touchdown. Chances are it's probably not going to happen every single week, okay? It's not sustainable. He's the number 3 in an offense right now, slot receiver. Has better guys on the outside, so this isn't somebody that I'm running out there to pick up. Okay. Next, you have Rex Burkhead. So we already talked about it. You have James White coming back, Damian Harris coming back. So how's this backfield going to shake out? A lot of mouths to feed. You also have Cam, who didn't rush for a rushing touchdown, I don't think, this past week, who is still going to be involved in the red zone for rushing. So he had 13 touches for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns. Not sustainable. Super efficient. Just I'm sorry, not going to get all the chances like he did this week. Um, this is somebody that was added that I think is a good ad, and that's Nick Foles. Yeah, I think he definitely deserves to be added because I think this is a good offense, right? Uh, Going forward, it just needed a quarterback, and sorry, Mitch, but you fired, right? Right, Kyle? uh,
You're
but
fired.
so Eh, Sorry, Mitch. I feel bad for you. I truly do. Anytime somebody loses their job, it's just unfortunate, but you deserved it. But Foles plays Indianapolis this week. Okay, don't have crazy expectations. Indianapolis is actually one of the top defenses in the league, so don't get your hopes up. If he doesn't play well because it's a tough matchup, don't go dropping him. He's gonna have better weeks, right? Greg Davis. I want to talk about him because fantasy is a game you play week to week, okay? Week to week, you need to win, especially if you're sitting at 0 and 3 right now. You need to win, okay? So you're looking at your bench. You need to get rid of guys who maybe you're hoping, oh, week 10, he might be good. Well, listen, we don't have till week 10. We have to win now. So Greg Davis offers that, okay? Yes, it might be only 1 week because John Brown's going to be out, but when John Brown went down, 4 for 4, 81 yards, taking over that spot, and now it looks like a not pass happy, but pass friendly offense. And Josh Allen looked really good. And this is a guy who's going to get the ball in this offense. So somebody that I think is a better play than like Randall Cobb, Rex Burkhead as a flex this week, like him. Even over guys that were added over him, you have Andy Isabella, Hardman, Mikael Hardman. Mikael Hardman played on 38% of the snaps last week, only on 59% of the passing plays. That's not sustainable what he did last week. Doesn't have the opportunity. Another guy that I do like this week is Hunter Renfro. No Brian Edwards, probably no Ruggs, right? So you have Buffalo right now. He's a 31%. He has a 31% average in the slot according to Pro Football Focus. So he's somebody that, if you want to attack the Buffalo secondary, the best way to do it is through the slot. Hunter Renfrow has a big advantage this week in the slot. So he's somebody that, remember, you need to win this week. I think he's somebody who can give you that advantage to win this week. So I like him as a play this week. So that concludes our transaction trends. It wasn't that big this week, It's not very sexy this week compared to last week. Obviously, if guys are like Jeff Wilson and Mike Davis are still available in your league, go and get them. They shouldn't be available, but go and get them. So let's talk about our next segment here. A very early little teaser into week 4, okay? Haven't done a ton of research because I'm still waiting on a lot of the player news, but obviously I'm always researching, just not to a point where I feel really, really good about some things. But there's a couple things that I feel really good about. The first one is Minnesota plus 4.5 line. I like Minnesota plus 4.5. I'll take that because I think that this is going to be a game that you have two teams who are desperate to win. But you have a Minnesota team who's very, very good at running the ball, 6 yards per attempt, and a Texans team that can't stop the run this year. They're last right now, giving up 5.2 yards per attempt. So I think that Minnesota runs the ball efficiently and effectively. On the other side, you do have Minnesota's defense that's looking pretty leaky here. So you have Deshaun, that I think this is going to be a good game for him. And I think it's going to truly come down to the last couple of possession, the last possession, honestly. It's going to be a very back and forth game. But one thing that I think I'm going to give Houston the advantage is because I believe that they found their Diggs replacement in Justin Jefferson. Last week, the highest rated receiver on Pro Football Focus, 93.8, highest rated receiver amongst all receivers, right? So I think he's going to be a stud going forward. It's going to give this team that little bit of a boost. So somebody I like going forward. Kyle, take over the next one.
All right. You mean for your looking ahead into week 4?
Yeah, it's okay. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really necessarily following along directly on
Well,
the pick.
I didn't know if you wanted to talk.
No, 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 no.
Okay. All right.
Continue.
Well, you got a little segment coming up here in a minute.
Yeah, exactly. I
Okay.
wasn't. Yeah.
All right. So the next one here is Tyler Boyd. I this is in terms of DFS. Even season long leagues, I like him a lot this week. But DFS right now is the 27th rated, not the 27th rated, 27th priced wide receiver, right? On FanDuel at 6,000. Crazy, crazy, right? Especially after these past 2 weeks, he's caught 17 balls on 21 targets for 170 or 197 yards and a touchdown. Okay, he has one of the best matchups this week against DJ Hayden in the slot. Has a 48% advantage according to Pro Football Focus. That's number 3 this week, advantage wise. So great matchup. Uh, it should be. I think the total was 48 and a half right now, according to Vegas. So the over. I mean the line's pretty good. It should be kind of like a back and forth game. So I like Tyler Boyd a lot this week. And then the last person is actually on the other side of the ball, and that's James Robinson. Playing Cincinnati. Cincinnati's one of the worst run defenses in the league, giving up 545 yards on the ground this year. Right now he's at 6,600. Okay. Remember, I like to have my running back sitting at like a 3 times value, right? So on the 6.5, you're getting 3 times the value stat wise. So he needs to get up around 18, 19 range right there. So do I think he can do that? For sure. He's being more involved in the game plan. if you watch that Thursday night game, he just looks good. He looks good as a receiving back. He looks good as a running back, right? He's somebody who's going to be involved, no matter if they're getting blown out, or if they're ahead. He's going to be somebody who's involved, and I think he has a pretty good chance of probably getting a touchdown here as well, because I think, like we said, it's going to be kind of a back and forth game with some scoring. So definitely opportunities. He's going to be a good play this week. One of my favorite plays on FanDuel right now is 6,600. Just such good value. So let's go ahead and get into our last thing here. Thursday night football. Yeah, it was such a good game. The Jets, yeah, oh wow, they're so good. But I do like Jamison Crowder though. I do like him. So I'm gonna go ahead and just talk real quick, and then I'll let Kyle kind of take over here. Jamison Crowder right now, if he plays on FanDuel, he's well on both of them, I guess. It doesn't matter. DraftKings, FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's 12,300 for the captain spot. On FanDuel right now, his price tag is at 11,500. So he's probably my favorite captain. He's the one that I find myself getting the most at the captain spot because I think he just in a game that doesn't offer much upside, nobody really does. I think he offers the most because him and Darnold kind of have a pretty good connection over the past year. So I think out of everybody in the slate, he's probably my favorite. Like I said, I find myself putting him on the captain spot the most. And then he's really not that expensive. So and nobody really is in this slate. It's ugly, and even the guys that are expensive, you don't really want to get because you're like, oh gosh. So, but you can get guys like Darnold. I like that. You have that connection there, Darnold Crowder. So I like him. Darnold's 1,400 on FanDuel. As a flex plays 10,600 on DraftKings. So you got that stack, right? So that's my favorite stack. And if you want to be contrarian for this, right? You probably have to go the quarterbacks for this slate because a lot of people are going to probably be playing the defense or kickers. So I like to be the contrarian, and I like to probably play the quarterbacks, but I don't know if I can get the rip, and I don't know if I can fit them all in. But definitely Darnold. Jerry Judy's 11,000 on DraftKings, 7,800 on or I'm sorry, other way around. So 11,000 on FanDuel, 7,800 on DraftKings. Saw 3 targets on 9 passes by Rippon last week. So very small sample size, but it is something going forward. McManus, obviously, there's one kicker I like. He's probably my favorite kicker. 9,500 on
Boomer.
FanDuel, 4,600 on DraftKings. Herndon, I'll talk about him in a little bit more too as well. Hasn't done much, but right now, Denver seems a little bit uh, decent against tight ends. 6,700 has I believe it was like a 12% advantage according to Pro Football Focus. So for this week, and the last one I'll talk about is Lindsey. Right now he's 6,500 on FanDuel, 6,200 on DraftKings. Just somebody that you can definitely throw in there, very cheap for a guy who was basically splitting the workload with Melvin Gordon the first week of the season. Now, does it go back to that? I sure hope so. I think so. So at that price range, he's going to return value. Uh, but I'll go ahead and let Kyle take over. Go ahead, Kyle.
Thanks. So basically, I just want to talk about like certain matchups, things I do don't like. Um, I mean, start out with the obvious ones, the ones that are, you know, out there because I mean, in all reality, the Jets as a whole aren't a very good team. So, in my opinion, this shouldn't be very hard in terms of who you want to pick. So, my first two, Melvin Gordon. Well, first one, I'll start with him. Obviously, I mean, he's at one point was considered a top tier back. I think he needs to reprove that. But I mean, Pat Shermer, Mike Munchak, offensively, they should be able to figure out how do we get around this Jets defense that a lot of people are saying seemingly figuring out how to get around. So, um, you know, I also think somebody else that could have a really good game or could, kind of be somebody you might come yell at me for is Jerry Judy. I don't really know what to expect. Brian Poole's not a terrible cornerback. That's his main matchup guy because he does line up on the right in the slot, and that's well, Poole's just basically a slot anywhere guy, but Judy likes to line up more on the right. But Poole is a veteran guy. He has a lot of experience. Judy has a lot to learn. But if I were to bet on anything, and not actually bet, but as a figure of speech, you know, chunk plays. That's probably he's gonna get. They're not very good in the interior. They give up. Their coverage is very poor in the interior. So I could see Judy picking up a lot of those chunk plays. And that brings me to the next guy who I think may do the same is KJ Hamler. He's going against +1 Austin, who out of any DB that you could pick on that defense is probably uh, performed the most poorly. Because like Tyler said, let's not say people suck because we're not in the NBA or NFL. We're not professional athletes, so they don't suck. But Austin got burned a couple times by Michael Pittman against the Colts. He's been struggling for years. He gets out of position a lot. He's just one of those guys, probably going to be a journeyman. But Hamler's really shifty, and the Jets give up a lot of underneath plays. So I could just see Hamler taking advantage of that. Same thing with Jerry Jeudy. That's why I think those chunk yardage plays, that's going to be kind of their bread and butter for the game. But if I'm going to have to talk about anybody, I mean, again, you'd really have to think Rippon's throwing them the ball. It's not Driscoll anymore, who I would say is probably a better option, but they don't really have many at this point. They're trying anything, so that's a big if. But if I had to pick anybody on the Jets, Frank Gore and P. Ryan. I know Tyler touched on Crowder a little bit. Not a tough decision if he plays, but yeah, Frank Gore and P. Ryan. I don't think the Broncos defense is that bad. Just a few stats. I mean, they're seventh in rushing yards let up with 307, which really isn't that bad. But the focal point and what they need to really focus on is the secondary needs to not let up any plays in those outside zones, the open flat or the open flat, nothing over the top. So that's kind of a big thing that can help their rush defense. But other than that, I think the Broncos are the more favorable matchup. So any offensive guys that you may have or you've been excited about, maybe not a bad time to play them. And especially, Melvin Gordon and Jerry Jeudy, I think, would be those guys that I'd be speaking about mainly.
All right, Kyle. As always, thank you for your wonderful fantasy advice. We appreciate your input. So thank you. And so the last thing I want to talk about is just a couple of lines here. On Thursday night, right? I'm scooping, going down there on the bottom of the barrel. Okay, like this is ugly, right? But there is one that I do feel pretty confident in. That's Tim Patrick, over 2.5 receptions, right? So Rippon, he only played one drive. Small sample size, very small sample size. But on that small sample size, he threw 3 passes to Tim Patrick on that one drive, all completed for a total of 12 yards. So I like him as, that kind of little security blanket, just completing those little couple of passes, little nickel and dime in it, type of passes. So I like him 2.5. I think that he can get that in the first half. And that's going to be my Tyler's lock it in bet of the week. Okay. Tim Patrick over 2.5 receptions. Next one, I don't feel that that good about this one. Okay. But I'm at least going to give some stats to back up what I'm saying. So Chris Herndon. Now, Chris Herndon hasn't been that involved since week 1. Um, right now, it's at 3.5 receptions. Okay, you could very well go with the under for this one, but right now, I'm going to take the over, and the over is +102 on FanDuel Sportsbook. And the reason why I'm going to do the over is because right now, Denver versus Tampa Bay last week, nine receptions on 11 targets. Okay, week prior, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh doesn't really throw the ball to the tight ends that much. 4 receptions on 7 targets. And then you have Tennessee week 1, 6 catches on 9 targets. So tight ends are catching the ball here. I think Chris Herndon could see 4 catch. I think that's probably like right around his max. I think he might catch 5 balls. I think that's what I'm going to have him projected at. But I think it's 4. Now, could it be 1? Certainly. This is a shithole of a game, right? I don't know what to entirely expect, but I think that they need to get him more involved. This is a decent spot to get it. Like I said earlier, he has a 13 and a half advantage according to Pro Football Focus. So I'm not crazy about this one. I'm crazy about the first one, but this one I'm not crazy about. And the last thing I'll say is that you have Crowder, Lindsay. They need to be ruled, as goes. They're going to adjust the lines here. It's going to look a little bit different leading up to tomorrow. Um, so I'll have to double check on that. Remember, if you want to find out what Tyler's bet of the week is, follow us on Twitter, okay? At Aspire Show underscore, okay, at Twitter. And remember, if you're enjoying this content, which obviously you are because you're still listening, right? As all of you should be, right? Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And I think that about does it for our show tonight, honestly, because the Thursday night game's just not too good. So there's not a whole lot to talk about with that. So there's a lot more of other content. So with that being said, is there anything else you have to say, Kyle?
Nope. We'll just make sure you guys tune in on our show. Will be uploaded on Sunday morning. So as soon as you wake up, getting ready for kickoff, tune into our show. Put in your bets and put in your lineup, and we'll guarantee you those wins. All right.
And as always, I just said it, but like and subscribe. It really does help us out. And if you have some comments that you want to say, please feel free to leave them in the comments. We'll answer them. So if you have some
Share,
questions
share,
to say,
share.
yeah, if you are enjoying it, share it with your friends, show other people. Heck, if you ever have any questions, just feel free to ask us.
Like the
Any
new Barstool
advice.
Sports. Tell
Yeah.
everybody.
So thank you very much for listening, and have a wonderful day.